Here we go. We are live. Alrighty. Excuse me. Let's get rolling. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It is Friday, June 25th, 2021. Today, we're talking about the iPhone 13 plus all of the latest news and rumors surrounding Apple because this is the iMore show. Joining me, as always, is iMore contributor Karen Freeman. Hey, Karen.
Hello.
And joining us today again is our special guest, iMore writer Luke Philippovich. Hey, Luke.
Hello.
Welcome back. So, this has been a long week for I think all of us, but had a bit of a commerce section of the week early on, and then we've had some interesting rumors pop up, as well as a very, very superstitious survey. That's how I'm going to phrase it. So let's start there. Let's start with iPhone 13 or iPhone not 13. The iPhone we will not name. Maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year Apple finally switches to iPhone. Finally switches to just like iPhone and then year, because a new survey is out. It says 74% of people say they don't want their next iPhone to be called the iPhone 13.
The iPhone that shall not be named.
Exactly. I have a lot of thoughts on this, and most of them are not charitable. I don't hold a lot of superstitions myself, and the number 13 certainly isn't one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not superstitious either, but I do think that at some point it is kind of silly to keep naming the iPhones this way. Nothing else is named this way in Apple's ecosystem. So why not just have it be the iPhone Mini, the iPhone Pro, the iPhone Pro Max, whatever, and then just attach a year to it.
Exactly.
Whether officially or unofficially.
I think we're getting in the realm where it's a little ridiculous. You know, I mean, I think iOS numbers are one thing.
Oh, sure. That's just software.
Because software versions have been around forever. It's, you know.
I mean, are people going to walk into future Apple stores and say, yes, I'd like the iPhone 932?
Yeah, they have to abandon it eventually. Or, you know, whatever replaces the iPhone, whatever brain chip we've got by the time we're at that
stage. Well, sure. Yeah.
No.
The 932 might be a bit far in the future, but even like 27, just, I don't know.
It is important to remember that, like, you know, the number 13 has a lot of significance in certain cultures, you know, and it's not all just superstitious.
No,
it's not all just superstition. But some of it is.
But there are other numbers that have cultural significance in a bad way also in certain cultures. So
that we've passed.
They glossed right over those numbers already. So
totally. And
like
I mean,
4, I understand.
Yeah, I couldn't care less what the next iPhone's called. I think they should just start calling them Apple phone, right? Just the Apple phone.
With the symbol.
Yeah, right.
You're not writing it correctly unless you write it with the symbol, which is not great for our content management system. But
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying the numbers are the best way to do it, but I actually appreciate that there is some sort of sequence, because as somebody who writes about the iPhone a lot, it is much easier to identify what I'm writing about rather than having to always stick the year on the end of it, which if you see what we've done on iMore with, you know, and what a lot of, it's not just iMore, it's kind of conventionally done. And a lot of the Apple sites is like, for example, with MacBooks that obviously don't have a number. Usually we just put the year in parentheses so people can understand what MacBook we're actually talking about, especially when you're comparing different MacBooks from different years for different specs. And like, I've always enjoyed that the iPhone always sort of has a name that makes sense, at least in some sort of chronological order. But I agree, like eventually the numbers will become untenable and it'll just be like what are we doing at this point, right? Like
And don't get me started on, MacBook Pro 13-inch early 2020 and MacBook Pro
Oh.
13-inch late 2020.
Right? It's like,
it is kind
Yeah.
of a nightmare. This is true.
Yeah.
Luke brings up a very good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's for us. We're a minority in the scheme of things.
Definitely not the majority of people have that issue, but I like the idea that they continue to make it very easy to understand which iPhone you're writing about or communicating about.
Yeah.
From a content organization perspective.
Yeah, for sure. But ultimately, I don't think it really matters that much. People are getting very emotional about it, and I think it's just not that important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they broke the mold when they went with the iPhone X, which I still call the X, even though I know it was the 10.
I mean, they broke the mold before that. The original iPhone, and then there was the 3GS,
3G,
right, or the 3G. There was a whole weird naming thing there, and then again with where they skipped the 9 and went right to 10, but it was X.
Yeah. Right. I keep forgetting we skipped the 9. We skipped the 2. And, we skipped the
and then there was the 10S. There have been a number of S years where it was another whole generation of iPhone, really, but they called it S instead.
Well, remember that last year there was a lot of thought that maybe they'd call the iPhone SE the iPhone 9 because they had skipped it originally.
Oh my gosh, that would have been just way too confusing.
Yeah, that would have been that would have been a nightmare. That would have been a nightmare.
Maybe
it's just ridiculous.
So the numbers don't really match up anyway. Like the numbers are sort of meaningless.
Maybe there's a compromise solution where we can not do iPhone year, but we can move on from the numbers. Maybe if we started with Greek letters, so we started with the iPhone Alpha, and then the iPhone Beta, and the iPhone Gamma.
What are these?
But we're going to run out of letters.
What are these?
What about having
variants? Come on.
Oh my gosh.
The Gamma variant of iPhone. Oh no!
What about giving them like animal names or something?
The iPhone Gamma Pro Max.
Yeah, but we'll still run out of Greek letters though.
And then we move on to Egyptian hieroglyphs. We just keep getting more pretentious. Is the idea.
My gosh! But Egyptian hieroglyphs don't have like verbal.
This is true.
Are you going to describe the pictograph?
Yes, every
it's
time.
A little eye with the thing hanging down.
You said pictograph, Karen. Emoji. There we go. iPhone.
Oh
with
yeah,
emoji
there we are.
The iPhone, and then the S variants. So like this one could be last year's iPhone could have been like the iPhone heart, and then this year could have been like the iPhone blue heart or purple heart. or something like that.
Oh no, last year's definitely should have been the one with the mask.
There we go.
The mask emoji.
And then this year's can be the one with the like the party horn.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, or like the vaccine / syringe. Maybe that.
There we go.
Oh yeah, now that they took the blood out of it.
Let's talk a little bit more about this year's iPhone, because we have another report from Kuo Ming Chi, the venerable Laker of all things Apple, but especially iPhones. Here's the thing. We talked about masks, and obviously masks have been kind of an issue this year when it comes to Face ID, and then Apple implemented the Apple Watch Unlock feature, which I have now stopped using, Luke, after thinking about that editorial you wrote maybe a month or two ago. It is, and it ever since the I think the iOS 14.7 beta, really, it's been kind of an inconvenience. More than it has been a convenience. But we were also all kind of hoping, I think, that Apple would somehow get Touch ID into the iPhone this year, and there were rumors to the effect of it would be in the screen, and now it looks like that is a 2022 project for Apple and not a 2021 project.
Sure. I mean, I've said this before. I love Touch ID. I want it to come back. I am personally of the mind that unless you can make it completely as seamless and as easy as you can with a physical button, it shouldn't go behind the screen. And I feel like that's what this report or rumor would be indicating, that Apple hasn't quite figured out that solution to make it just as good as it has been in a physical button. And that's what I expect from Apple, to be honest. I don't want them to come out with a version of it where it's kind of clunky, maybe doesn't work as well. Like, that's not Apple's style. I think that's not a good plan for them. And I think I'm glad to hear that maybe that's further off. What I'm interested in is, does that mean that they're just not going to put Touch ID at all on the next phone? Because I really think that they should just put it in the button like you do on the iPad.
I agree with you, Luke. That technology is Apple's already mastered that. So why not just put it on the iPhone?
Right?
Yeah,
like I'm fine putting it under the screen if they want to in the future, if they think they can do that. It's sleek and it works and everything. But we've seen in other fingerprint sensors, they're a little slower. They can be a little harder to use just based on getting your fingerprint reader reading properly and stuff like that. And it's not that Touch ID is perfect. I love the idea of having Face ID and Touch ID both on a phone, because they are both useful in different situations.
Yeah.
But yeah, put it in the button. You've done that so many times. You've done it on the iPad now, the iPad Air. So just put it in the button.
Thin button. It's in the thin button.
We know you can do it, so just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah, I don't see a reason to put it under the display. It just seems kind of awkward. You'd have to get it just the right spot, or is it the whole screen, or a whole segment of the screen? The button just makes sense.
It does. And other phones have done the side button for their fingerprint sensor.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is that if they do put it in the touch screen, it is faster that way, because you don't have to find a button. You just start touching your phone and it opens up. So
you don't have to find a button. You don't have to grip your phone in a particular way.
Right.
Like, you don't have to grip most of your phone with your whole hand. You could hold it like this theoretically.
Right.
Assuming
that the area is big.
Yeah.
I mean, it couldn't be just a finger sized.
I would assume, I would at least hope that if Apple does eventually get to in-screen Touch ID, that it is more convenient than it's sort of historically been on other phones, because I think even still, and this might not be true of some models of Android phone, but I think a lot of Android phones still just have like one touch spot for Touch ID. And I'd love to be able to, if I'm authorizing an iTunes or App Store purchase, I would love to just be able to hit the side of the screen instead of have to get it, dead center on one spot.
Right.
Yeah. To me, it just seems like the in-screen is a ways off from being as useful as I think I'd want it to be, and as precise and as flexible as I think I need it to be. So I'd be happy with Apple holding off on that to make it the best it possibly can be, as they typically try and do. I would actually, I'm one of those crazy people who, like, one thing I have liked about certain, Android phones in the past, and specifically the Pixel line, is having the Touch ID on the sensor on the back of the phone. So you can very easily touch it with your index finger. I would love to see it they'd have to move it a little bit depending on, maybe not. It's pretty much in the right place. They should just put it in the Apple.
I've been saying that. I've been saying
it'd be so good.
5 years.
Yeah, it would be so good.
Except for the case issue. I'm not going without a case. So we'll have to work through the case.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there are plenty of cases for the Pixel phones, and they have a cutout on the back for the fingerprint sensor. So this would just be a cutout on the back for the
Apple. I don't like those, though.
Yeah, it's less total protection.
Yeah, and it does make, like, when you have, a really, like, if you're a heavy duty case kind of person who likes really heavy duty cases and that are thicker, you do kind of get that, like, it's not always the easiest to get your finger in there, even though there is a hole for it and whatnot. So it's not a perfect solution by any means. A button probably just makes more sense at the end of the day. But
the biggest hurdle that I see actually for putting a button there now is MagSafe.
Oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that.
So even if I think, because there is a charging coil that is right there, And
Right.
I'm sure you could design some kind of sensor that worked fine with it. But if you have, say, an accessory like a Magsafe wallet that slaps on the back of a case, even if the case has space for Touch ID, the wallet's going to cover that up.
Right.
No question.
Yeah, fair.
Which
So,
I just picked up Apple's MagSafe wallet this week during Prime Day, for a much more
nice.
reasonable price than Apple usually charges for it. I'm making the switch.
Yeah, and you certainly don't want to have to take that off in order to open your phone. That would be ridiculous.
That would be ridiculous.
So the button, just put it in the button. We know you can do it. Apple.
We have the solution. It's the side button. Obviously,
Yeah.
we're talking about it and we're talking around it. Solution's the side button. Just put it in the side button until you can put it in the screen reliably.
Yeah, reliably and largely.
Yeah,
it's
big.
It's got to be a big area.
Needs to take up at least half the screen.
Yeah.
My
Why not
dream
the
has
whole
kind of
screen?
been. Well, see, that's the thing. My dream has kind of been to be able to touch any part of the iPhone screen.
That would be the ideal. If you just pick up your phone and just start touching the screen, and it wakes up and it knows you.
just because I can, I want to be able to unlock my iPhone by covering the clock with my thumb.
You do you.
Yeah, exactly. It's right under, I got one biometric on top that's Face ID, and then right below it is where I put my Touch ID thumb. Exactly. So a little disappointing if they don't add Touch ID somehow in the iPhone this year. Seems like this year has been, I've been thinking about it a lot. It does kind of feel like this is the year that got derailed by COVID more than 2020 was.
Right, because that phone was already done.
Yeah, that phone's planning was already done. The same with iOS 14. Most of iOS 14 was conceived in 2019, and probably in large part built in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
But this year, this is the stuff they were working on in throughout 2020 and into this year. So yeah, it's a little bit of a strange year. I remember a lot of people complaining that Apple's such a big company. Last year, Apple's such a big company. Couldn't they've put, say, Touch ID in the button of the iPhone 12? And one of the things we have to remember is that with big entities, Apple is a lot like a ship.
Yeah.
And
you can't just turn the wheel and
right. If you want to, you're going to lose all your cargo if you do that.
Yeah, right.
Like a ship has to cut anchor or cut engines, drop anchor, and then it still goes for miles before it stops.
Yeah.
So, and it's the problem is scale. Like Apple has to test and deploy all of this, not across thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even a few million, but tens to hundreds of millions of devices.
Right. For sure. And then of course is the fact that R&D happens years before a device comes out. So
yeah,
the iPhone 12 was conceived of probably 3 years ago, at least.
Yeah. And we can sit here and talk about how Apple's figured out Touch ID in the thin button, and it's true they have. But one of the other things that we have to remember is that the iPhone side button is smaller than the iPad button. It's thinner, I think.
That's a good point.
No.
It's a thinner button. It has to be a different sensor or different hardware.
That's true.
Yeah. So that is iPhone 13, but we also have the same report from Kuoming Chi also has some notes, I say a little bit sad, on what we'll call the iPhone 14. This one we can name freely and happily. The iPhone 14, it's sounding like they will indeed drop the mini in 2022, which but if you like big phones and you also don't like spending $1,500 on a phone or $1,200 or whatever it is, I don't tend to buy the big phones, then good news. It seems like Apple will be doing that. Kuoming Chi is saying that Apple is going to have two 6.1-inch phones. That would be the 14 and the 14 Pro, and two 6.7-inch phones, which is the 14 Max or Plus or whatever they'll call it, and the 14 Pro Max. Well, we done did it, everybody. We got the big cheap phone, and I hope you're all happy.
Yeah.
This just strengthens my resolve to get a mini this year and then use it into the ground.
Yeah, I'm actually anxious to get rid of the mini, to be honest.
You miss that camera, you miss that battery life.
That's exactly right.
Both of those things, right?
Both of those
just
things.
Exactly that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna start doing my pinky workouts now. Get those pinky muscles back to strength, so I can do the pinky shelf.
Did you just get one of those squeezy bar things that strengthens your grip?
Yeah, just for the pinky.
like the yoga bands.
Yep.
Yeah, get a really tight rubber band and just wrap it around your fingers and just there we go.
Exactly.
Do your pinky reps. Man, there should be an Apple Fitness Plus program for that. Let's petition Apple for that. I'm not surprised. I am just sad that the mini would be going away. Because one of the things I've realized about my usage is, I mean, technically speaking, if I still wanted this same size phone, I could have just gone with the 12. Because I don't use the camera on my phone all that much anyway. I don't use the camera the same way, and I don't know. The mini being small in my pocket it's great. It's great. It's nice. It's light. It's more colorful. I like those colors. I like the regular 12 colors a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully the mini sticks around in some form in, say, the SE. I don't know. When the SE finally gets Face ID in 2022 or 2024. Let's hope.
Yeah.
But what do we think of the idea of a cheaper big phone? Is it about time?
I'm not a big phone person. I would never get a big phone, so I don't. It doesn't matter to me. I'm sure they must have done some focus group research, something to see. There must be some call for it.
12 Pro Max in particular was unexpectedly popular.
Yeah.
At least it feels in terms of like the tech cultural pulse. It feels like it was pretty popular in a way that we haven't seen on most other like Plus or Max phones, at least in a while.
I think the tech community is definitely skewed towards buying the most expensive flagship phone
that is true.
at all times. So
yeah. And even though the average person probably wouldn't notice any difference with the cameras and stuff, the Pro Max this time did have additional camera features, right? And video features. And I think there's a lot of people who do actually look at that and do find it useful and use it in, their daily life very often. But I also think that there's probably a subsect of people who just like to have the best that there is, and that's definitely, if the Pro Max, since it did have extra additional features on top of just what the Pro offered, I feel like that might have pushed it a bit over the edge, right?
One of the other things I think it's important to consider is that, we say this all the time, but a lot of people just have their phone as their main computer.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the iPhone, the 14 Max, whatever you want to call it, that's not a Pro, would be appealing for somebody for whom their phone is their main computer and it also is their tablet. So if it's going to be like your all-in-one, why not get that large screen? And you don't need the Pro features, save some money.
It's the same reason I've kind of wanted Apple to make like a 15 or 16 inch MacBook Air for a while. Like, why should a big screen be, only, Pro only, or in many cases prohibitively expensive?
Mm-hmm.
If all you want is
because there's definitely
like what if you don't care about the cameras, why spend all that additional? That's why the cameras often are why you're spending the money,
right?
Yeah. I mean, I would say I'm always kind of a fan for technology becoming cheaper or more accessible to lower income people and whatnot. So I'm pro this move. It would be nice, like if like like Karen mentioned, for just like an excessive, like some people enjoy big phones because they have, not that you can't adjust it in settings and stuff, but the bigger phone, the bigger screen, it's a little easier to read, a little easier to navigate. Sometimes, definitely not with one hand necessarily, but it can be easier to navigate for people. There's lots of reasons why people might like big phones, as you said. So I think, making it slightly more accessible, it's not like it's going to be insanely cheaper, but making it somewhat more accessible, I think, is a good move. So
Luke, here's my question for you. Like, assuming the price is right on both, would you prefer the 6.1 inch phone or the 6.7 inch phone?
I'm a 6.1 inch fan. Like I kind of like the standard size, I guess, if you want to put it that way, the standard size.
It bugs me that that's the standard size.
I understand, like, obviously there's benefits to both having a bigger than that and smaller than that. And I can see those. And like, actually just the other day I was fooling around on my old iPhone 7. And I was kind of like, oh yeah, I remember how like nice this, fits with one hand. And like, typing is like easier to do with one thumb if that's something you do and things like that. And like, I can see the benefits. And I also love screen real estate. I watch a lot of YouTube on my phone. Like I actually, for some reason, watch YouTube more on my phone than any other device, which is weird. But like because it's so portable and I can just take it everywhere with me. If I'm in the kitchen, I can be watching something and then I can move it to the, the table or whatever. So it's just like, I watch a lot of YouTube on my phone and I love the idea of having, the biggest screen possible to do that with me in my pocket kind of thing. Right. So I understand both, but I've always kind of liked the standard / like normal / whatever you want to call it size. I've thought that's always like a good compromise. It's like big enough to get kind of everything I need from the bigger display, but like still small enough that it's like nice and usable. And I don't feel like I'm stretching my fingers or having to use any other like, reachability stuff to kind of navigate my way through the UI. So I've always liked the like 6.1. I would think that's probably like, I'm still rocking an iPhone 10. So I've been due for an upgrade for a while. And I'm thinking, depending on the 13, I might actually finally bite the bullet and pay for the upgrade. And I'd probably stick with just the standard size. I don't really feel like I need, and I don't think I would get like a pro edition either. I don't feel like I usually need like something like that. Like I like taking a lot of photos. I have a dedicated camera that I mostly use for that, but I do use my iPhone for iPhone photography, but I don't know if I need like all the fancy or all the cameras that are possible to really make that work in the way that I use my phone. So I like the standard.
I think it's easier, especially even if you're a tech enthusiast, I think it's easier to make the decision, downward now to get like the regular phone now that they all have like the same OLED display. Like the same display,
totally.
Having the same display technology in all of the sort of flagship or flagship adjacent phones is, I think that's a big deal for a lot of people. I know one of the reasons that I originally went with an iPhone 10, even though it was just, essentially it was a 1 year old or a 1 year better phone than the 7 I had at the time, was I wanted OLED. I wanted that screen. I wanted those inky blacks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's definitely a factor in letting people, I think, downgrade it, as it were. Certainly is for me. So yeah, that is iPhone 14. It's the 13 or whatever we're going to call it's not out yet. Can we not talk about the 2022 phone yet? Not too much. Also coming for 2022 is apparently a new iPhone SE in the first half of the year. That seems to be the time of year that Apple likes to launch iPhone SE anyway, if the previous two are anything to go by. This one, not at all shocking, supposed to be a 5G phone.
Yeah.
That's kind of a duh at this point.
It's kind of every phone at this point. Yeah,
that's true. One thing I wonder is, will we see a redesign? Each or both of the iPhone SE models we've had so far have had different designs.
It's going to be a struggle when they finally get rid of that home button.
Will it be will it be the return of the mini?
Literally everybody that I know over 70 that has an iPhone will not get rid of that home screen button.
That is,
which once again, if they put a Touch ID button in the power button or the side button, maybe that would alleviate some of that that concern or anxiety.
I don't know. I mean, it's that the press the button to go home.
Mm-hmm.
I think is the biggest. Is that it's not just the opening of the phone. It's the like I'm in something and I don't know how to get out of it. What do I do? What do I do? Press the button.
Sure, totally.
And once you take that away, you're gonna like freak out an entire generation.
Yeah, the whole swipe up thing. I think my mom still doesn't like it.
Yeah. I mean, my mom, my in-laws, my aunts, my uncle, they're all over 70 and none of them would deal with swiping very well.
To go home.
I think my biggest thing with the iPhone SE is I don't want it to lose its price point. That's my biggest thing because once again, as I said,
I mean, that's the point of the SE. Right?
Yeah. I'm a very big fan of technology being as accessible as possible.
Yes.
And Apple does make a lot of very expensive technology. Let's not, beat around the bush. But I think that the iPhone SE price point is like, heck, I'd be down to see it even lower for sure. But like, I like where it is. I think it offers a good compromise between being a very capable smartphone in today's world, but also kind of offering, those specific limitations or downgrades or whatever you want to call them.
I mean, for sure to have a brand new iPhone with new technology that's still under $400 is amazing. Mm-hmm. Like my aunt went to buy a new phone recently and she asked my advice. She's like 80 years old and her daughter said, oh, just buy an older phone. She was trying to tell her to get like a refurbished iPhone 7 and I'm like, no. Like get the iPhone SE. It's the technology you're already used to. It's brand new. And it's basically the same price as a refurb older phone.
Yeah.
So she
but it's just better. It's flat better.
Yeah. It's so much better.
It's
like, why are you going to buy a phone that's already 4 years old? Like how long is that software going to be updated? This is somebody who buys a phone like once every 5 years. She was coming from a 6 or 6S. So,
which, well, given the way Apple's, continuing software support like that, the iPhone 6S is going to be going to have 7 years of software updates by the time we get to next year.
Right. I mean, her phone was finally starting to die.
Yeah.
She did need a new phone, but she was very happy to get the SE.
If you buy an iPhone SE, you've got years of software updates, at least, I would say at least 7.
Right.
Yeah.
It's wild. And you do love to see that. But yeah, I think 5G at this point, in 2022, obviously the networks are going to be even more robust, and at that point, it's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it? Just 5G on all of the iPhones. It's in the iPads. It's getting 5G is getting everywhere.
Yeah. Although I have to say, in my experience, 5G is just nothing. I mean, it doesn't improve my sound quality or my connectivity at all.
I think when I can get it, it is a lot faster. It is a lot faster than LTE.
I mean, my iPhone says 5G, I would say 75% of the time, and I don't notice any difference at all.
Well, that's the thing is
it's not real 5G.
Well, see, it might. It says 5G when it's like technically connected to it, or there's 5G in range. But one of the things Apple did with the iPhone 12 models is it basically doesn't use 5G until it thinks you need it by default. So if you're doing like a big download, then 5G will kick on. But most of the time you're using LTE. And the reason for that is 5G eats a lot of battery. It just it chomps your battery.
Yeah.
And Karen, you can't take that. You cannot afford any extra battery chomping.
I know.
I
know, but I have to say my biggest disappointment in this era of technology is just how horrible my phone connection is all the time. I mean, anywhere I go, I can usually get text through, sometimes not even, and phone calls it's like 50-50. I drop calls all the time. And it's not like I live way out in the boonies or something.
What network are you on, by the way? So then
Verizon.
So yeah,
But I've had T-Mobile, I've had AT&T. The only one I haven't tried is Sprint because I've heard in my particular area that it's the worst.
also
Well,
it
that's
doesn't
also
exist anymore.
they're just T-Mobile now. So
Yeah,
Oh, well, yeah, right.
T-Mobile bought them.
Then I've tried them all,
Yikes.
yeah,
and they're all terrible.
Canada's sort of in the same predicament. Like I literally don't even know if 5G exists where I am right now. To be honest, I'm not sure. I feel like Canada can sometimes be a little slow on the ball with those things, and then also specifically where I am in Canada is a little slower on the ball of those types of things. So I wouldn't be surprised if I don't even have 5G. I mean, I don't have a 5G capable phone right now, and I just don't worry about it. I'm also one of those people that's almost always exclusively connected to internet. With my ISP, they have a lot of hotspots around the city that I'm in, and by being with my ISP, I can connect to those hotspots by signing into my account for just as part of my package. So I actually have internet. Like I would say, probably 95% of the time I'm anywhere in the city, at least I have internet connection. So I don't really I'm not using my cellular data all that much, or my cellular connection all that much. So to me, it doesn't really matter. But I understand it's definitely the way of the future. Eventually 5G will be, the prominent, technology that we all use. So it makes sense to start putting it into phones now as you can start using it. But I agree with you, Karen. I also I don't have 5G access, I suppose, but I am also somewhat baffled that sometimes that if I'm not connected to the internet and I'm relying on just like my 4G network, it just seems to not be great. And I've tried, the three main carriers in Canada too, and they all seem to be about the same. It's like older buildings, they don't tend to penetrate as well because the building materials are too dense, and there's a lot of older buildings in my city. Like my apartment is notoriously bad. Once again, I'm on internet all the time in my apartment, but my apartment is notoriously bad for when if we lose internet for whatever reason, we just don't get many bars or whatever. It's just you think we would have solved that by now,
Yeah. And my house is the worst. I usually have 0 bars in my house. Sometimes I get 1 or 2 if I turn just the right way and stand on my head and wiggle my fingers, and I don't know. It's terrible.
Yeah, it seems like it should be fixed, but it's just that it seems like we should be there already, but it's just
So I have 1 bar right now. 1 bar, and I'm pretty sure it's LTE. Thank God for Wi-Fi calling. Before we continue, Karen, why don't you tell us about a friend of ours?
Yes. Hey, iMore Show fans. We're going to take a quick second to talk about Hover, one of our sponsors. We know you love learning about tech, and Hover is a great tech company to talk about. Hover is a jumping off point for a ton of entrepreneurs, and they want you to start your business with a domain name. Hover has over 300 domain name extensions to choose from when building your brand online. No matter what you want to build, there's a domain name waiting for it. You'll find excellent technical support available to answer any questions you may have. Their support team doesn't upsell you. They only work hard to help you get online. With free WHOIS privacy protection, a clean user interface and user experience, and monthly sales on popular top-level domains. It's not hard to see why Hover is a popular choice for people starting all kinds of businesses. Hover offers best-in-class customer and technical support, domains and email to pair with your domain, clean and easy to navigate UX and UI, and over 300 domain name extensions to choose from. Grab your desired domain name at hover.com/iMore. Get a 10% discount with our referral link on all new purchases. That's hover.com/iMore. Make a name for yourself with Hover.
All right. Thank you, Karen. So I want to talk about this. I said it was a temporary problem. I said that the lack of the lack of ability to tap into more RAM on the new iPad Pros was a temporary problem. And then I thought I was wrong. And then today, turns out I was right.
Yeah.
So Apple has, in a move that has made me very, very happy, Apple has added a bit of a, what is it? It's a new developer tool in the latest, that developers can take advantage of in the latest beta of, I think it technically both iOS 15 and iPadOS 15, but it really applies to iPadOS 15 that lets developers say, hey, I need more RAM and you've got a lot. So, hey, maybe I could borrow some. Basically, it lets developers kind of scale up what they offer depending on device capability in terms of memory. So previously, and I guess currently for most people, because most people are running some version of iPadOS 14 on this new on the latest iPad, if they've got one, developers are limited to using 5 gigabytes of RAM, even if you have a 1 or 2 terabyte iPad Pro that has 16. So right now, that 16 gigabytes of RAM really serves to keep more apps in memory, which is great. You know, don't get me wrong, I rarely reload apps these days, or Safari tabs, importantly. But yeah, I would like, you know, Photoshop to be able to create many, many more layers. Same with Procreate, you know, add more tracks in, or add more tracks without a performance hit in, say, GarageBand or another multi-track recorder. What this, and so that's enabled by this. It is, what is it? What does it let them do? Okay, you call a certain function. As a developer, you would call a certain function, and that would determine the amount of memory available on the device. Now, of course, we should expect that this, you know, apps that take advantage of this, it would affect performance on your device. I would hope that Apple's app suspension system, that, you know, when you leave an app, would work well enough that it could suspend an app without, you know, taking that chunk of RAM. So if you're using something like Procreate or Photoshop, I would imagine that it's the app on your screen most of the time, instead of, you know, using it side by side or even slide over with other apps. But so when you leave that, hopefully the RAM that you've been using kind of comes back to the rest of the system as needed.
Right.
Yeah. This is the hope. But yeah, I'm very happy that this change has been made and that they haven't found the need to re-architect the entire OS yet. So
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. For those of us with the 2021 iPad Pro, and not those of us who sold it because you bought it based on what you thought was promised future software. I think we're all doing a little happy dance today.
Yeah. So you'll have to put that through its paces and let us know how that works. And once developers actually do it.
Yeah. Let's see if I can get on some betas soon.
Yeah.
That'll be the real test. So yeah, that's with iPadOS Beta 2, which launched yesterday, along with iOS 15 Beta 2, watchOS 8 Beta 2, and tvOS 15 Beta 2. One of the biggest additions with these betas is SharePlay is there. SharePlay actually exists. How does it work? We don't know. We haven't tested it yet because even though we've been doing video calls for an entire year, a lot of us are still very antisocial. I don't talk to people on the reg. So you're going to have to wait for our thoughts on that. But yeah, it's exciting that SharePlay actually is in there. I noticed my Apple TV, which was on the tvOS 14 beta, but I never updated it for tvOS 15, is now on tvOS 15. It just got updated at some point in the last couple of weeks. And it has a giant, in that slide over panel on tvOS, there's now a giant SharePlay button.
Cool.
For that. So it is ready. It is ready to watch Ted Lasso across the internet with all of your friends. This is the hope, I believe. Yeah, we're just kind of jumping all around this week. The week was dominated by Amazon, I feel like, and then there was a smattering of Apple news, but a lot of it's very interesting. So smart bands. Apple Watch smart bands. This is something
This
that
rumor has been around
since the Apple Watch. Sorry.
Since the Apple Watch. I used
Yeah.
to, I mean, many years ago, I used to write for an Apple Watch focused site, and I must have written a half a dozen articles about smart band rumors.
So, yeah, Karen, tell us a little bit about this. This is a prototype Apple Watch Series 3.
Yeah, so this prototype has surfaced online, and there's these two little like buttons next to the. It looks similar to the smart connector on an iPad, where the band in the band groove where you put the band in.
Mm-hmm.
So that has fueled all kinds of speculation. You know, what could that? What kind of could this be for a smart band? And so the question is like, what is a smart band? Like, what would that actually, what kind of functionality would you get in a smart band? So is it going to be for more health monitoring? I don't know. I mean, this isn't from the rumors that we're seeing, but just from my own speculation, could it be like an additional battery kind of thing?
Remember,
What
I
do you
think
think?
it was when the iPhone or the Apple Watch first came out. There was there were a couple of companies that tried to come out with some kind of charging strap that had like batteries.
It
in
never
them,
really worked out.
never really materialized, and they were probably not great ideas in the first place. The other thing I remember this picture reminds me of is there is, or at least there used to be, some kind of physical service, I think service port in the we'll call it the bottom band groove on the Apple Watch itself. It's that little 4-pin connector thing in between the two like smart band points or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when people were freaking out when we first found out about that, thinking that was going to be how you connect smart bands, is that little port in there. It's like, no, it's just a service port, just in case we need to like really dig into the watch.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, what would you want to see in a smart band?
I think I'd want to see. It's weird. It would be just a more comprehensive version of what we already have in a certain way. Like I'd want it to be like, if I had a smart band, I'd want it to be an even more, an even more accurate like heart rate monitor or something like that.
But we already have what I think is a pretty good heart monitor. I think diabetes would be the big. Would be the big use case if that added surface area would be helpful for some kind of glucose monitoring. I don't know if it would or not. I don't know anything about the science, but that would be an amazing addition, and it would be a good thing to put in a band because it affects. Well, it does affect a lot of people. It doesn't affect the general population, so it would be good as an add-on rather than built into the watch and taking up space in the watch.
So something I've been thinking about ever since Apple revealed the new assistive touch features like a week or two before WWDC, where with the watch on newer Apple Watch now you could like double clench and it'll activate assistive touch mode, things like that. One of the things that's occurred to me is whether or not Apple is exploring the possibility of what are called myoelectrics. So myoelectrics, it's myo. There have been some products that take advantage of this, but they read electrical impulses from your muscles, like somewhere on, often your arm, and they can read like specific gestures.
Yeah. So accessibility would be a very cool use case for smart bands.
Yeah, accessibility. And
like for people with missing limbs or missing fingers.
Exactly. And so, this. And then like trying to use a mouse cursor in a way on an assistive touch enabled Apple Watch, it's fine, it works, but it's also clear that the hardware wasn't designed for the precision of that you would like to see on that. So it's like sometimes you'd have to like clench twice a couple of times, and something like a myoelectric sensor would make that a lot easier. And it would also
would be very cool.
Yeah, it would just be very cool too. Yeah.
Yeah, the Phone Pup in the comments mentioned it would have to be waterproof. Water would be an issue because we're used to our bands being sort of waterproof, and being able to swim with our Apple Watches. But a smart band may not necessarily be waterproof.
One would hope Apple would take that into account.
Right.
I certainly would hope that Apple did that. I also, I've been thinking about that. I also kind of want like a myoelectric sensor in the watch itself.
Yeah, but I mean, every new feature that goes into the watch it's either going to have to make everything else inside be miniaturized, or they're going to have to make the watch bigger. Whereas the smart band allows you to add on whatever kinds of features you personally want that isn't necessarily for the general public, without having to increase the size of the watch. So it can just keep getting smaller, which I think is very cool.
Yeah, the only thing I want in a smart band is more battery, as I've always been saying. I would totally buy it. I would totally buy a battery band. I don't care if it's a tad thicker than a normal band. I would totally buy it.
Luke wants that battery band.
Yeah, like I'm not even asking for much. Just give me like 2 days of battery life, like a full 2 days of battery life.
See, I'm fine with 1 day because my Apple Watch always lasts a full day. If it wasn't getting through the day, then I would definitely want a battery band. But I mean, for me, it's no big deal to charge it at night. If I'm going to sleep, I might as well put my watch to sleep too. Although, you know what? With sleep monitoring, for people who use the Apple Watch for sleep monitoring, 2-day battery life would be ideal. And a battery band would be very helpful.
Yeah, totally. That's me. Like I take it every night with me.
Oh, you do? Okay. So then, I definitely get it.
I've had to like sort of adjust when I can charge it. Cause like, I don't want to,
it's a pain.
Yeah. Well, it's just cause like, it's like, I mean, for the most part, I've gotten to a routine where I kind of find that like the best like 2 or 3 hours where I know I'm not going to really be doing anything. So
right. When your head's down working or when you're in the shower or whatever.
But like some days, especially if I'm on vacation and not working or something like that, it's like, there's not always these like 2 or 3 hours where I just want to like not have my Apple Watch.
Right.
On, cause I want to be tracking some sort of exercise or I want to be whatever. So it's just like, I feel like 2 days would give you that a little bit of extra flexibility for me personally. And that's because I do use sleep tracking.
Yeah.
Every night, so.
But that's what's cool about the smart bands is that it could be all of those things, just different bands. This person wants this feature, this person wants another feature, or you want all of them, you can just swap them out. Like when you're going to be using heavy battery, you can use the battery band. You need to monitor X, Y, and Z health thing. You can swap it out for that one. I think it gives the watch a lot more flexibility and personalization options.
And it will give Apple a whole new accessory to charge a lot more money for.
But it also gives third party, presumably, hopefully Apple would also let third party developers in there, but it also opens up a whole world of creative people that can come up with something.
Yeah. And I know this is a prototype Series 3, and so obviously this is something Apple was exploring a while ago. If indeed this is what it is, we are making a lot of assumptions here.
Right. Oh, you know what the other big rumor was? I'm talking years and years ago when the Apple Watch first came out. It was a camera in the smart band, which I don't want. I don't want that even to exist.
Someone did it. Some third party did it.
I know.
They put a camera in a.
Yes, they did, but I don't think it was ever really fully functional.
And it wasn't very. I mean, and this actually.
I think it was like in the prototype. What?
Yeah, someone recently did it.
Did they?
Yeah, and it doesn't really. No, it's like big and chunky, and it doesn't look good. And no,
I mean, someone did it like 5-6 years ago, and it was ugly.
It's not going to work with FaceTime, folks. It like a third-party camera before Apple builds in FaceTime video functionality into the watch. It's not like what is
people are determined to have that Dick Tracy wristwatch where you're it's just not practical.
Get an antenna on it.
Sometimes I'll get a phone call and I can't find my phone or it's just not within reach. So I'll just answer it on my watch and like just talking on my wrist. I can't wait to finish the phone call because like my arm gets tired from holding it like this. It's so awkward.
That's why the walkie-talkie feature is the real Dick Tracy feature.
Right.
That no one ever uses, or at least I don't know anyone who uses it. Is anybody?
I was gonna say in the comments, Phone Pup brings up a good point. If there were smart bands, how much extra battery would they use if they're not a battery band? How much extra battery is that going to use, right? Because now you're taking away battery from me. I don't know if I can handle that. But
so what if it did, whatever thing it's going to do, plus it has a battery in it to offset whatever battery it's using up.
That battery charges when the Apple Watch charges.
Yeah,
right.
Maybe could be.
Let's do that.
Although, and then another thing that Phone Hub said actually before that was if we do have a battery or, any, not even just a battery, but any sort of smart band, like they're going to have to really make sure that they have water protection, right? Water resistance.
We just talked about that.
Yeah,
my goodness. My brain. I can't.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll blame it on the vaccine, Luke.
Yeah, right. I just got my vaccine like 2 days ago. I'm just kidding. The vaccine's fine. Go get it. It doesn't actually cause any problems.
Yeah, just makes you a little tired sometimes.
Yeah, I completely missed that. I must have zoned out for a quick second. But yeah, I think smart bands are. I think that's a cool way to add, like Karen said, like the things that not everybody needs that maybe they don't want to add into the Apple Watch because maybe they're too clunky or too big or would require too much space or whatever. I think that's a good way of going about it. Of course, we've been hearing these rumors forever. Perhaps it was tested at one point and Apple deemed it not worthy. Who knows? But it would be cool to see some sort of extra functionality. And like, I think there would be a lot of cool use cases like blood glucose monitoring or things like that could be enabled through some sort of like attachment system or accessory system that way. But yeah, it would be cool if it came out, but I'm not holding my breath. We've been having these rumors for a long time. So
yeah, if this being an Apple Watch Series 3 is any indication,
right.
Yeah,
totally.
Oh man, smart bands. It takes me back. Really does. I've been wondering if Apple would get in on smart bands for a while. I think you're right. They would like an infinite, sort of almost an infinite universe of possible uses that Apple wouldn't have to build into the watch. Karen, it goes to what you were saying. Anything you add to the watch, you either have to miniaturize everything else or you have to, blow up the watch a little bit.
Yeah, and I definitely don't want the watch any bigger than it is. It's already really too big for my wrist, but
do you have what series do you have, Karen?
6.
Okay, is it a 40 or 44?
I know it looks like a 44 on my wrist because my wrists are so small.
Is that what this is?
It's a 40. It's
a
40.
My.
I just thought of another scenario for smart bands. How cool would it be for gaming? Like think about all the cool things that it could do for gamers.
Yeah.
Like make that part of the game. Like I know I'm not a gamer, so I don't know all the right terminology, but in like virtual reality kind of situations, like if you're
augmented reality,
like if you're the sword or the lightsaber
or a tennis racket,
or the tennis racket, like the Wii types of things. I don't know.
I'd have to go lefty. I'd have to go lefty for that.
Yeah, I know. That's the only thing is usually people wear their watch on their non-dominant wrist.
Yeah.
But
oh well. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and call it there. We've come down to the end of our hour. Thanks everybody for tuning in live. Thanks for everyone who commented. It's always great to see you guys talk in the comments. It's always fun. I want to say thanks to Luke for joining us again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great.
Always good to have you on. And I want to thank our listeners who will listen to us later in their podcatcher of choice. Of course, I also want to thank Jim Metzendorf, who will make us sound very great for those particular listeners. He always makes us sound so wonderful, even through coughs and cats and fans. So big thanks to Jim. And until next time, this has been the iMore Show. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
bye.